afternoon. I am Ivan Weiner, Executive Director of the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience. Day number 5, we just had our first block of shorts. It is absolutely an incredible Q&A coming up. And just really excited to present the filmmakers to talk about their movies. Before we do so, though, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsors. Without the sponsors, AFMX, the virtual experience, nor the in-person experience, which we plan on next year, would be happening. So I'd like to thank the AFME Foundation and the Board of Directors, Albuquerque Film Office and Film Liaison Cindy McCrossin, Bernalillo County Commissioner Stephen Michael Cazada, Brezza Terrena Olive Oil, Comcast NBC Universal, Real Solutions Airport Meet and Greet Service, Sunny 505, the Baker Law Group, University of New Mexico Film and Digital Arts, Wells Fargo Advisors and Larry Schwartz, Yamaha Entertainment Group, and Jalska Road Productions. Please keep in mind for our complete lineup of events for the rest of today, Saturday, and Sunday, and the ones that already took place since Monday can be found at our website, AFMXNM.com. Get your tickets for the events this weekend. There are some hot events. Really looking forward to them. Getting a lot of feedback for Ray Seahorn from Better Call Saul, doing a center stage conversation on Sunday morning, as well as a documentary tonight, Warrior Spirit, all about Nico Montano, who's the first Native American world champion in the UFC. So, and the list goes on. There's some amazing films. So, yeah, I could take up this entire period, but I'm not going to. Let me bring in Kira Seifler, our Director of Operations. Kira, take it away.
Thank you, Ivan. Yes, we have a lot going on. Just a couple of more programming notes. We did have Buffy St. Marie scheduled for today. She has been rescheduled to Sunday, September 26th at 2:30 Mountain Standard Time. So Sunday is going to be a full day. Like Ivan said, we have Ray Seahorn in the morning, and then we'll have Buffy St. Marie in the afternoon. So stay tuned for Sunday because that promises to be a very eventful day. We are coming into our next film block number 9 with our filmmaker Q&A. We have just seen How Was I Supposed to Know? Western Exit, The Book of Ruth, Calla, Lillies, and Pigeon Therapy. We are lucky to have our moderator, Ramona King, joining us today. Just a few notes that the audience is able to ask filmmaker questions. So just put your questions into the chat box and we'll make sure that they get answered. And if by chance you need to step away or if you want to look at other filmmaker Q&As, they're all recorded and online until October 11th. So now to introduce Ms. King. Ramona is a versatile storyteller on stage, in film, and radio. National stage performances include The White House and her recent work in progress, Booby Trap in the Bay Area. She appears on the film Wonder opposite Aaron Eckhart, oh, so lucky, and in the CBS episodic Interrogation. She is producer of 2 short films, Coffee Break and Searching. She's a former radio host of NPR affiliate KUNM Radio's Spoken Word Hour. And this is her 3rd year moderating for AFMX. We are so lucky to have Ramona. Well, Ramona, please welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kira. And thank you, Ivan and Melody, our beautiful, wonderful Queen Tech person. It's wonderful to have you. It's wonderful to have you here. I'm glad that we can all be together and meet these wonderful filmmakers who have graced our screens. And we're welcome to AFMX 2021. Hey, it's been some kind of year, right? All right. First, we're going to look. We're going to look at the filmmakers we have here. We have Chen Drachman. She is the writer and producer of The Book of Ruth. We have Scott Ballard. He is writer, director, and producer of Western Exit. And we have Nina Beaudry. She is the actress of the film Pigeon Therapy. And unfortunately, our director for Pigeon Therapy could not be with us, and family issues. And we have, she's in our hearts, and we miss her very much. And thank you, Nina, for being here to represent the film. So I'm going to start. I'm going to ask if you could, all three of you, if you could unmute yourselves, because I'd like for this to be a conversation between all of us. I'm just curious, could you tell me something about your film? What is it that you want people to know about? You know, you create this work, or you are, and Nina, in your case, you are involved in the work and giving a story through your body about the work as an actress. And as are you, Chen. Could you tell us what it is that you want your audience to walk away with? What is it that you want them to know about your film and your experience?
Nina, do you want to go first, or whatever you guys prefer? Okay.
You can
All
go.
Right. All right. Yeah, just to clarify, I'm the executive producer, because our producer, Caitlin Gold, credits due. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting with the Book of Ruth, because my hope is actually that everyone who leaves the theater will leave with something a little different. We had so many discussions behind the scenes, what we would have done in Ruth's, if we're in Ruth's shoes. So do we think she made the right call? Was it the right call for her? Would it be a different call for someone else? And, you know, that opens a whole new philosophical discussions on stuff. Yeah, of course, the movie deals a lot with memory and hatred, unfortunately, and intolerance, but also fame. What does it mean to be famous? Expectations we have of famous people, our lack of ability to forgive certain things that famous people do. This like weird notion that that we know them, that they're friends of ours, that we have some sort of like claim over things that they do, or ownership, which is understandable on a human level, because these are people, let's say on a TV show, these are people you let into your living room on a weekly basis for years and years sometimes. So it feels very intimate, but it's one-sided, right? So I think that's another part of it, is this weird relationship dynamic that we have with famous people that is not necessarily, it's real for us, but it's in the grand scheme of things is not a real thing. And how do we kind of navigate around it? So there's a lot of questions that I think the story kind of evokes, and I hope people are like, oh, interesting, I understand where she came from, or I don't, or I would have made a different choice. So yeah, that's my hope, that people talk.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chen. I want to ask you questions, but I want to go on to our other filmmakers so we can get their spiel also. But wow, celebrities and how we see them, how we hold them up. It's a very important point, something to consider. Thank you. Scott.
Yes. Hey, you know, I've been making a series of films about death and dying in different aspects of that. And, you know, I guess what I challenge myself with, and I have to remind myself this all the time, is like, I want to look at life through a prism of different angles, like multiple angles, being able to see everything from as many angles as possible. As a storyteller, it's a huge asset of what we try to go for. And as a human, I have to remind myself of that. If I'm sitting behind the desk typing, I can go into writer mode and like see it from all these empathetic places. But I guess I hope that, you know, after watching the film, that things like death and dying, we can have our own perspective on it, but we can also hopefully at times be able to take a little step back and flip the perspective a little bit, or shift it even gently a little bit, and see these things from a brand new angle. This film, Western Exit, is a comedy around death and dying. And so that requires sometimes a big shift in perspective. But with each of the projects I've made recently, it is really trying to look at these global issues, death and dying, that we all have to experience and go through, and just see it from maybe a new perspective, or remind ourselves that there are multiple perspectives that we can see our life and our death through.
All right, thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
And Nina, talk to us about your experience as an actress in Pigeon therapy. What do you want people to know about you, your experience in the film?
So I think my experience in the film, and I also am going to talk a bit for Nadia now because she's like the director. So I think what was really important to us was that we had this character Emma, the main character, and she's a person who is really very empathetic. She has lots of empathy and compassion, and then throughout the movie, this empathy and compassion she shows is kind of being exploited, and people take advantage of her. So at the beginning, you have like this character who tries to stand up for herself, but it's not really working. And then she evolves, and then at the end, she really gets to stand up for herself, and she is able to shout and like get out of her character. And yeah, I think that was like one very big part, so that you have empathy, compassion, but sometimes people take advantage of you.
Yeah, I got that totally in this. And our character, our main character is coming, I guess you can say coming of age. She's coming to herself.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, there are three, I'm listening to all three of you. And one of the things, and after watching the movie, one of the things that stood out for me is this idea of existence and non-existence, and what happens to us as a result of that. What happens to us in terms of being a celebrity in the existence and non-existence. What happens to us when we're daughters and we lose a father that we barely ever saw, and but there's something missing, and they gain something at the end. And then Nina, this whole idea of you and that watch, when you pull that watch out from your father, you know, it's like you look at it for a moment, it's like a moment of realization of you coming into yourself. I'm not sure, but we saw it when you stood in front of the cage, for sure. When you said, I'll make the cage. But, you know, there's something special that happens when you pull that watch out. That watch you told your brother that you had found in your father's place. Could you tell us something about is there something about this idea of life and death? And the pigeon therapy and Western Exit does give us like this comedic slant on it all. And the granddaughter who won't let it go, you know, she's like raising the dead, so to speak, when she insists upon the truth. Yeah, I know this is a broad question, but can we have that conversation? What is that all about, this whole idea of existence and non-existence that you're bringing up in your films?
I thought it's interesting that you're saying existence and non-existence, because when we're looking at Scott's movie and Pigeon therapy, Western Exit Pigeon therapy, then I think it's a more personal existence, non-existence. When you look at the Book of Ruth, it's like the existence of society, how society was kind of like influenced by this non-existence, by this death, right? Because we know watching the movie that this death didn't really occur in the world of the movie, but society kind of reacted like it did. And when I'm thinking about pigeon therapy, for example, I mean, you know, like you said, existence, non-existence is such a broad thing. So Nina said how empathetic her character was. And I think what we saw in the movie is maybe she's lacking empathy towards herself. And so by caring for that pigeon, she's actually learning to care for herself. So I think there was also lack of existence of like empathy towards herself. So I mean, sorry, you know, I don't mean to speak for you guys. I'm just like saying the things that I think about when, you know, because we wanted it to be a conversation like that. That's like Ramona mentioned this thing, and I was like, oh yeah, like I can see different let's call it different aspects of existence, non-existence in each one of our movies.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tim. Scott, did you want to make a comment about that?
Yeah, it's such an interesting way to phrase that, because like in Western Exit, there's the existence and non-existence of the father is almost like same thing. When he existed, he's gone, and when he doesn't exist, he's gone. And so they're dealing with kind of the same aspect of someone being gone in two different ways. It's just the lack of like hope for that connection that is severed once he doesn't exist any longer. And so it's a really interesting way to phrase that. And I think we just, you know, my co-writer and I, Jordan Eusebio and I think we touched just the tip of the iceberg of being able to experiment in that world of like what that means when that, you know, if it's just the hope of reconnection that makes someone exist, what does that actually mean, and what effect does that have on someone, on our characters?
Okay. And we do have a question from the audience, but before we go there, Nina, do you want to share with us what that might mean for you as the actress for Pigeon Therapy?
I think it's absolutely right what was already said. So yeah, she at the end she kind of realized that she has to exist for herself and not for all the other people that are around her. And also maybe exist in the relationship. It's like a different kind of existence in the relationship with her brother, because she kind of faces him now differently, and she's able to say what she means. Like, yeah, I mean, that's all.
And I think, I mean, and I think for all of our films, if we're thinking about Coco for a second, like, oh, I think the message of that movie was, as long as someone remembers you, you still exist, right? So I think like we see this with the father in Western Exit, like Scott described, and with Emma's father, and also with Anne, not really with Ruth, but with Anne, like people remember her, hence she still exists in a way. So yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for that. Thank you. So it looks like we have a question from Eddie Sanchez. And his question for you is, what advice would you give to film students trying to get into the industry?
That's a great question. I teach film currently to film students, so I have a full lecture and a full quarter's worth of advice I could give you. But you know, it's really, I kind of harp on the same element throughout. So it's really that we all have a story to tell, and it's our story, and it's our perspective, and we get to tell it however we feel like it's true to our perspective. And so being able to, like, you know, dive into that world, and it doesn't, you know, whether you want to write or direct or art direct or be a cinematographer, we're all trying to adapt the story to be able to retell it in a way and find truth within these stories. And so really getting in touch with just like your perspective on the world, spending time dwelling on like what you see as beauty and truth in the world, whatever that means to you, and like harmonizing, you know, your mind and your thoughts to that, I think will be the thing that leads you. It's a little bit of a aloof answer. There's all the technical aspects of like, get involved, network as much as possible, go to festivals, talk to filmmakers. We all need help all the time. It's a collaborative effort. Show up, have a good attitude about things, you'll go far. But also just personally, like really embracing your perspective on the world. Yeah.
No, Scott, I have to say that that is such wise advice, because the thing is that we go straight for the technical. Who do I need to know? Who are the connections? Mm-hmm. But when you get to a place where you come to yourself, as Nina's character does in this movie, you come to yourself and see what it is that you see in the world and what is the story that you want to tell. Start there and then develop the relationships. I want to go over to Nina, because Nina was a crew member. Based on our conversation, she was a crew member behind the camera. And then, then next thing you know, you find yourself in front of the camera. You know, so here we have someone who just loved what she was doing as a crew member, and now she's, you know, she's the lead actress in a film. Nina, you want to talk? That's how you're getting your way in the ministry. To the ministry people. In the industry. But talk to us about that. You developed relationships, and it was,
the director, Nadia Masri, she was she's a script supervisor also, besides being a director. And I was her trainee on a movie. And that's how we met. Like, she trained me in being a script supervisor. And then, we kind of had a friendship going on. But then after 1 year, we saw each other again. And she was like, yeah, Nina, I'm writing a movie right now. And I just thought of you as the character, because like my personality and the one of Emma in the movie is kind of very similar. So that's how things work out sometimes. And then, we did the casting and I became the actress.
We talk so much about authenticity in acting, and girl, I just loved you in that, oh my God, you're such, I was like, can I take her home? I mean, there's something about authenticity that captures all of us as an audience. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, there's something about authenticity that validates who we are in the world. And watching what you all are doing, I mean, it says something about success and speaking your story. My goodness, Chen, you told us that your investors walked out on you, or there were investors you had that walked out, and you kept going.
Well, we never found there, is the thing. Well, it's not that they walked out as much as, you know, people that I'll reach out to would say, can you hear me? Sorry, I forgot that I actually need to do this. It's not so much that they walked out as and more the fact that we reached out to so many people who said, oh, this is so interesting. We're so sure you'll manage to do this. We're just not the right people. I'm like, do these people realize though, that if they all say that, there will be no movie. So, you know, it's a whole bigger discussion about funding and the arts and how it's not always a priority for people, even if they think the story is good. But yeah, what can you do? I will say in terms of like advice that we all have very different journeys, and like a journey to success in this industry is not one size fits all. And I think we tend to look at other people and be like, oh, by this point of my life, I should be here. It's, you know, someone wrote on Twitter this week that it takes approximately 15 years to become an overnight success. And I really liked it because I'm like, you know, I've been in New York for almost 12 years. So that really resonates. Yeah. And I think we're also afraid of asking for help, as if like, if we don't do it on our own, we didn't really achieve it. But if you hear people in this business talk about how they got their break, you'll hear so many of them found a mentor. Like, you need the person who will champion you and maybe open the door, and what you do once that door is open is on you. But it's very rare that people can do stuff completely alone, and I think it's a perception that we just need to kind of like forgo completely.
I so agree with you, Chen. I mean, as a solo performer, I've tried so hard to do stuff on my own. I don't need anybody. I can do this on my own. I don't need you. That is so untrue. You know, when you're in this business, you have to collaborate, and there's some faith in the human spirit. You've got to have some faith in the human spirit to make those connections. And yes, mentors, if someone is where you want to be, that's the mentor you want for yourself. You want that person to like, you know, what is it that I need to do? If you're not going to, you know, coach me straight on, I'm just going to follow your work, follow what you do, and do that, because I have a story to tell and the world needs to hear it. If you believe it, and if it's that powerful for you and you believe it, it's got to happen. You're going to draw it, because you're going to speak it, talk it, and do everything. We've got another question for all the filmmakers from Bob O. What was your #1 challenge as a filmmaker during COVID? Well, listen, Chen, we know your biggest challenge. You just shared with us or I shared with us, you're losing those or not getting the people to invest. How did you finally get the investors?
I mean, we didn't get investors. We did crowdfunding, and the thing that no one ever says, but is the truth. The crowdfunding at the end of the day is friends and family. So it's not some miracle that happens, and you find investors out of nowhere. It's the people closest to you end up supporting, and that was the case with the Book of Ruth as well. Like I tried to make this movie for 5 years. By the time, so actually during the pandemic, the movie was already done. We filmed April 2019. But we were supposed to premiere exactly when the pandemic hit. So I spent, as you can see, most of this festival circuit online. So I would say that was the biggest challenge, because it's really lovely to see everyone on the screen, but it's just not the same. And at this point, I've been to a couple physical film festivals, just a different, we actually get to, I don't need to tell you. So I would say that was not a very unique challenge. I know many filmmakers experienced this with their movies that premiered this year, but it's been a bummer. I wouldn't say it's the greatest challenge the world is facing when it comes to the pandemic, but it wasn't great,
Okay. I'm going to ask this, we can wrap this up with Scott, if you could tell us, you said post-production, you had relationships with people, the longest relationships with people ever as part of this pandemic when it struck. Could you talk to us about that?
We've had a long post process with this film. Pre-pandemic, we were having a long post process, and then during the pandemic, it definitely slowed things down even more in some ways. But we were able to finish it during the pandemic, so we walk away winning in that way for sure. And just as as a filmmaker, I think it did bring a halt to a lot of projects and a lot of potential projects, but as we were, you were saying earlier, as we were talking about, it is a collaborative process, and one of the biggest challenges is just missing that collaboration. And as a writer, as a director, I glean all my inspiration from people and other people and being in the world, and having that kind of cut off and filtered through a new abstract way. That was probably the biggest challenge, to kind of find where that inspiration comes from, and realizing it does come from a very visceral relationship with being around people and being amongst people. So.
Oh, thank you so much, Scott. And we've got to wrap this up. Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Thank you for telling your stories. Thank you for answering the call. Thank you for touching our lives. And I'm going to hand this over to Kira. Thank you. Thank you, Aidan. Thank you, Melody. Kira, you guys are freaking awesome. And the sponsors, thank you for making this possible. Woo!
Thanks, Ramona. I tell you. Thank you, Ramona, Scott, Nina, and Chen. Thank you so much for being here. And yes, I think one of the reasons why we are so awesome is our filmmakers and our moderators. So thank you so much for that informative Q&A session. Just remember that all the conversations are recorded and will be available online until October 11th. And another reminder that we do have our awards ceremony scheduled for Sunday, September 26th at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can be part of this, one, by voting for your favorite films. With your ticket, you can go back and vote for your favorite films in all the categories. There will be an Audience Choice Award, so please make sure your vote is counted. Again, that's going to be on Facebook Live Sunday, September 26th at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. For the complete lineup and for ticket sales, go to our website at AFMXNM.com. Stay tuned for our next film block, which is film block number 10 at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Until then, have a good day.